Hello, and welcome back to Writing Women, the show where I talk about the women who exist in fiction and the people who created them. This week I decided to go straight into the next universe created by Tamora Pierce, and I jumped right into the Emelan books with Sandry's book. This book is really interesting when you compare it with the Tortall books after just having read through all of them. Instead of focusing on one main central character, they focus on the four characters through each book, at least in the first series, and how they interact with each other, with the perspective jumping around between each of them. Each book is overall about one important thing that the title character does by the end. Sandry's book, unfortunately, has the daunting task of doing all of the world building that we saw in the entire Alana series in the Tortall universe. It has to build groundwork for this entire other universe that has entirely different rules for how magic and politics work. It was published in 1997 between the Immortals and the Protector of the Small books, and it's much smaller than the later Protector books are. Really, it's smaller than most of Pierce's later works. It's a little weird jumping back into something that was earlier on in her career. Though that being said, you can really tell in the world building here that she's progressed a lot as a writer from when she first started writing the Tortall books. It's much tighter and much more fluid than it was in those early stories that she wrote. Now that I've set things up a bit, let's jump into a very brief recap. Like I said, it's a very small book. In Emelan, we have four new main characters: Lady Sandrine Fautorin, Daja Kisubo, Briar Moss, and Tristana Chandler. Sandrine, or Sandry, is a member of House Torin and House Landreg. She is closely related to high nobility and is essentially royalty by Emelan's standards. Sandry is orphaned in Hattar after a smallpox epidemic kills both of her parents. She is trapped in a magically concealed storeroom with only her embroidery and a candle to keep her company. After a long time spent alone in the dark, she is rescued by the seer Niclarin Goldeye, or Nico, and taken to Winding Circle Temple in Emelan. I hate this thread. It bunches up and gets knotted so much. I promise this has a purpose. Sandry has very powerful ambient thread magic. Next is Tristana, or as we come to know her, Triss, who is a estranged member of a wealthy merchant family. Strange things happen around Triss, and she is bounced around to various members of her family for her entire life, which leaves her feeling very unwanted. Some of the strange things that happen to her are benign, like hearing voices on the wind saying things that she has no other way of knowing. Others are dangerous, like being angry and accidentally calling down a bolt of lightning to burn up a tree. After more of these strange things happen to her, she is eventually found and also rescued by Nico and taken to Winding Circle. Triss has powerful ambient weather magic. Daja Kisubo was a member of the Kisubo trader family and a crewman on the third ship Kisubo, which was destroyed in a wreck, and all of her family members died. She is found floating in the ocean by Nico, who takes her to, not Winding Circle this time, but to a council of her people who declare her Trangshi, or bad luck, basically. She is essentially banished from talking to or doing any business with other traders. Her family staff is replaced by a plain one, which declares to any trader who comes across her that they should shun her, essentially. Then, Nico brings her to Winding Circle. Daja has powerful ambient fire, ore, and metal magic, which makes her a very good smith mage. Last, but certainly not least, we have the boy of the group, Briar Moss. He is an orphan kid formerly known as Roach, from the streets of Hajra. Briar had been caught stealing twice before, and the webbing between his thumb and forefinger were tattooed with X's. Now this is the third time Briar has been caught stealing, and the penalty for that is basically death by hard labor. But he is rescued by, guess who? Nico, who takes him to Winding Circle, where we find out that Briar is a powerful ambient plant mage. The four children arrive at Winding Circle separately, with no knowledge of each other. Daja faces extreme racism because of her trader background, and Sandry stands up for her against bullies because, well, she doesn't like them. And fortunately for Sandry, her status in the world allows her to stand up and fight back against people with little to no repercussions. Briar faces bullying in his dorm from kids who accuse him of stealing. Triss, again, has trouble controlling her temper and accidentally calls down lightning. The four of them are sent out of the main dorms and go to live in Discipline Cottage, where they meet Dedicates Lark and Rosethorn. Lark is an ambient thread mage and Rosethorn is an ambient plant mage. The kids have never realized that they have magic and at first don't believe that they do because it's not really the kind that they recognize. Lark, Rosethorn, and Nico help the kids recognize and train their power. Sandry starts to learn things like spinning thread and carding wool, things that supplement her already pretty tremendous skill at sewing and embroidery. Daja becomes an apprentice blacksmith to Frostpine, one of the greatest smith mages in the world. Briar starts to learn about his magic from Rosethorn, and Nico does what he can to teach Triss about weather magic. They also learn that Nico is a very powerful academic mage, truthsayer, and seer, which is how he found all four of them in their various situations. Tensions are, of course, understandably high at the beginning because the four kids come from very different societal and racial backgrounds. But Sandry is convinced from the beginning that they are meant to be a family. Eventually, the Dedicates take the kids with them to the market in Summersea, where they sell goods made by the temple. They give them some time to explore the markets on their own, and Sandry comes across a group of boys torturing a puppy. So she, obviously not liking bullies, steps in. A fight, of course, breaks out, and Daja and Briar rush in to help Sandry. Triss wants the fight to stop, so she tries to use her magic to pull water from the harbor, trying to dump it on the kids. But a bunch of kids rush by her and shove her and spin her around, and it turns into a violent water spout. Now the water spout starts tearing towards the group of fighting kids. And when Triss realizes that it's about to harm her housemates, she stands in front of it and forces it to stop because she doesn't want to hurt them. Lark and Rosethorn come to the rescue, and they drag the kids back to the carts. They try to pack them quickly so they can get out of Dodge before anything else wacky can happen. But of course, the parents of the kids, who've been told a very different version of things from their children, come to complain about the use of magic on their offspring. Duke Vedris, the ruler of Emelan and Sandry's great uncle, hears out all sides of the situation. Now, he decides that a truthsayer can help figure out everything, and suddenly the families of the kids don't really want to argue about this anymore, and they leave. So Lark and Rosethorn are able to bring our four main characters back to Winding Circle. Now, of course, because this is a Tamora Pierce book, they bring the dog home and they name it Little Bear. Now, throughout the story, small tremors have been happening all over the country, and they correctly guess that it is going to lead up to a significantly larger quake. The temple's seers predict that it will hit Ragat. Now, Ragat is home to the Wave Circle Temple, and unfortunately, the superiors there decide that they want to try and trap the power of the earthquake for use at a later time and try to trap it magically in crystals. Now, the earthquake bounces around through the crystals, gaining power, and then breaks free, kills all of the members of the Wave Circle Temple that tried to trap it, and the shockwaves from it spread out and just caused devastation, even in faraway Emelan, where our main four are having a walk on the beach. Now, the kids have been wandering around, not exactly convinced that they're completely safe from the earthquake, but none of them can really tell why. Little Bear runs into a cave on the beach and they chase him. And of course, the earthquake strikes and traps them in there. They each try to use their unique magics to save them from the situation, but separately they are too weak. Sandry is overcome by her fear of the dark that she developed while trapped in the dark storeroom, and at first can't do anything to help. Briar can manipulate coal, which they are surrounded by, because coal is just very old plants. So he and Daja try to firm up the coal and rock around them to stop the cave from crashing in on them, while Triss tries to use her weather magic to pull air in from the outside so they don't suffocate. Sandry realizes there is something she can do to help. She pulls out a piece of lumpy thread that she had in her work bag. It has 4 big lumps on it. She passes it around to her housemates and has them all put a bit of themselves into it. Then she takes it and she starts to spin it. And as she does so, she binds together the magic of the 4 kids. Now separately, they couldn't do much, but together they are stronger. So they're able to draw off of each other's strength and save themselves while they ride out the worst of the quake underground. They also have a neat little side effect of now being able to speak to each other telepathically using their magic. After they are rescued, Daja, Briar, and Triss work together and take a crystal and fill it with light so that it glows constantly, and they give it to Sandry as a gift so that she will never have to be without a light in the darkness. And that is the end of the book. I get so caught up in my memories of Tortall that I forget that it was actually Emelan that brought me into Tammy's work. I found Cold Fire from the Next Quartet on a library bookshelf one day and read it. Was a little confused, but sought out all the rest of the books in the series so that I could actually know what was going on. I think the first thing I really need to say is I don't know many authors that can pull off writing children as convincingly as Tamora Pierce can. They each sound like unique characters, and they don't sound like an adult speaking through the mouthpiece of a child. There was a lot of effort put into creating a very diverse cast of characters for this book, and it really shows through in the way they speak. As this is Sandry's book, I do want to focus on her. Each of the kids has been traumatized in a very unique way. Sandry's way of coping with it seems to be trying to force this new family dynamic with the kids that she has just met. The others have a hard time believing she could actually care about them because of her status in society. And she has to show them repeatedly through action that she will treat them as equals and back them up and be on their side rather than treating them like servants the way they kind of expect her to. Triss is impressed by Sandry's needlework. Daja is impressed by the fact that she not only speaks traitor, but stands up to other girls for her. And Briar is really impressed that Sandry stands up for him against Dedicate Crane and his lackeys after Briar steals a tree from Crane's greenhouse. Also that she gets into an actual fist fight to save an animal. Though she is another example of those not like other nobles that we see in a lot of Tamora Pierce's work. Lots of that, oh, it's other nobles who are selfish and unfair, not me, not me and the other good characters. We're the good nobility. We're the good upper class. We're not the bad kind. This series does a lot of work to get across a message about looking past our differences and loving each other, despite and sometimes because of them. Then there's the whole idea of ambient magic itself. It isn't flashy and powerful the way normal magic is powerful. It's more subtle and unique, different. The kids feel like there isn't anything unique or special about them, and from the outside looking in, you might think that a ambient thread mage wouldn't be able to save herself and 3 other kids and a dog from getting crushed by an earthquake, but she did. Sandry is unique, and she uses that thing that only she can do to bind them all together and make them stronger. She weaves a bond that will last them the rest of their lives. That's some good fucking writing. I can already tell that this whole series is going to be a wild ride for me. Daja's book is the one I'm waiting the most for because, I mean, come on, it's Daja's book. But Triss's is the next one, so come back next time if you want to hear about that. Now, the reason that I've been messing with this the whole time is because I have been hardcore inspired to start doing some embroidery work again. After reading this, it always inspires me to start doing needlework again. And I got a neat embroidery thing, and I have been embroidering it with Tortal-inspired colors in the order of publication timeline. It's pretty neat. And every time I talk about these books or look at these books, I just get the urge to start doing this again. So I've just been doing it the whole video. Now, it's been a wild few weeks. My roommate had to move out. My university is starting a few weeks late due to an upward trend of COVID cases in our area, and I have been working a lot. Fortunately, I can listen to audiobooks at work, and the full cast audio productions of the Circle books are on Scribd. Anyways, thank you for watching. I mean, specifically, thank you for watching me embroider for this entire video. If you like this video, please tap the like button. It helps me keep my head above water in the YouTube algorithm. Subscribe if you want to see more, and if you would like to help support what I'm doing here, head on over to patreon.com/writingwomen, where you can subscribe for as little as $2 a month and get rewards like early access to videos, voting on new projects, and input on where I take the channel. Thanks to my current patrons, Mary Doc Brandybuck, Ms. Psycho, Amy Chu, aka The Doctor, Lord Butterbutt, and Bruce.